studied to be closer to this. I'm going to carry it around with me. Well, welcome. Thank you all for coming to our senior parent night, where we get to tell you all about the wonderful things that are to come for you this year and for your students. Before we get started, though, into all of that jazz, Jen Chapman's going to come up and share a few really important announcements with you guys and let you in on a good deal tonight. If you haven't seen that second bullet point up there. Oh, it's tomorrow. I'm just going to let Jen tell you all about this, so we kind of stuff.
Thank you, Karen. If I hadn't said it, you would have. Look, I get my own slide. I've never had my own slide before. So you probably saw the big display outside when you got here, and if you didn't pick up a packet with your child's name on it, your student's name on it, make sure you get that on your way out. It is about graduation announcements. I know, what? Graduation? That's months away from now, but that's actually the sort of thing that you order now, and then they come in sometime around April. You'll start asking me in March, but they won't really be here till April, so maybe just remember that, and then we're all good. But graduation announcements, you don't have to get them. They're an optional thing. They're printed for us by Jostens, or for you by Jostens, but they're formal graduation announcements. They look like fancy invitations, and they have a seal, and they're very pretty. So that's a thing that you can do. It's an optional thing. It says right there, tonight, one night only, special pricing for seniors to buy yearbooks. Sorry, no. It's actually going to be tomorrow. It will be one day only, for seniors only, wink, wink. I have no way of knowing if you have a senior, so if you have other kids that you want to buy for, get the yearbook, be done with it, and then you can ignore every single email from me for the rest of the year about yearbooks. And you can do that at www.jostens.com. Finally, caps and gowns, they are ordered at school. This year, I think your packet doesn't tell you to order them. In the past, we had to actually really make sure that was emphasized. School handles ordering caps and gowns. I will send a form out to your students at some point where they will put their sizing information. We will order caps and gowns. We handle ordering diploma, all that stuff, so there's no graduation fees for you guys. And then senior casual pictures. All seniors have had presumably, hopefully, had their picture taken at school now. If you choose to submit your own casual picture, you are welcome to do that. We are happy to do that. I asked for all seniors to take a casual picture with our photographer, so we'll have one for everybody, but if you submit, that's the one that goes in the book. So we put two pictures in the book, a formal portrait and the casual one. And information about how to submit that will come soon, but here's a hint, the deadline is somewhere around the first week of April. Questions? Awesome.
Thank you. All right, so senior year, we're here. Let's see a little show of hands. Who are our first-time senior parents in the crowd? Your first senior going out of these doors. So who are our veterans? Who already sent off those? All right, so you all survived, right? You know, there's life on the other side of that. Good. All right, my name's Jessica Smith. I'm one of the counselors here at CSD. Karen Erboyne is my counterpart, and so we're heading up the Career College Counseling team. Jen Chapman also serves on our team. Anne-Marie McAfee gives a little guest appearance sometimes, now that she's got her admin hat on, but she pops in every now and again for us. And then Corey Thompson has also joined our team here at the school. She works primarily with 9th and 10th graders, but also does a lot with us in seminar on Friday. So you may be seeing some emails from Corey or hear your students talk about Corey, but she's been a great new addition to our team as well. So we're happy to work with your students this year and help them on their way to what comes after our CSD. All right, so we just wanted to remind you of a couple of things. If you aren't already subscribed to these, our blog is a great resource. We'll post recordings of all of these presentations on there once we wrap up the presentations at the end of the month. It's nextstepscsd.wordpress.com. And we also will post articles and kind of advice periodically to you on there. So that's a good thing to keep up with. If you follow our counseling page on Facebook, we're also on Twitter. Anne-Marie is a better tweeter than I am. I'm trying. My goal this year is to be better at tweeting. I'm like the rare person who's not on all kinds of social media, so I'm trying to do better about that. And then if you don't already get the emails through Constant Contact, that's another great way to make sure you're staying in touch and know what's going on at the school. So you can sign up for those on CSD's website. All right, so we want to kind of talk through some of the myths that pop up in senior year. We hear these from students every year. We're getting some of these already this year too. Maybe you guys hear these from your students as well. So just wanted to kind of clarify. We've been working through these and debunking them with your students. We want to make sure that you guys, we're all on the same page here. We're all a team in this. So colleges only look at 9th through 11th grade, right? No. So on the transcripts, and hopefully most of you all have seen your seniors' transcripts because we sent them all home with them the start of the school year to have you guys do a fine-tooth comb look at them to make sure everything is perfect on there. But you'll see their senior courses listed on there too, because colleges want to see what they're taking their senior year. They want to make sure they're still engaged in school. And there's also a little thing called a mid-year report that some colleges may ask for come December, January, just to kind of check in to see how those grades are. So the courses seniors are taking and their grades in their senior year still matters. Senior seminar is optional. No. And some of you have already been getting our emails. We're trying a new approach this year of emailing you and your student every Friday when they're not there. So if you're tired of getting those emails, make sure your student attends. We're doing a workshop approach the first few weeks in seminar to really help students in the application, planning, researching process for what comes after CSD. So we have students working on college applications, we have students doing research for if they're thinking of enlisting, we have students doing research for what independent living looks like, what kind of bills will they have, if they're going into CPCC next or community college, looking at all the different courses that are available to them, figuring out if they want to do a college transition pathway or if they want to do a more technical vocational pathway. So we're spending this first few weeks just helping them research and complete what applications need to be completed right now. Once we move past that, we do have more of a curriculum senior seminar, so it is important to come to that. We'll continue to help prepare them for what comes next. So we'll do some financial literacy, we'll do some safety skills, we'll talk about job interviewing and life outside of the walls of CSD, outside the walls of your house. So it'll be a good overview of kind of what they need to get them onto their next step. That SAT, ACT book bonfire was fun this summer. Anyone have one of those at their house over the summer? No? Yeah? So for some students, yes, they may be done with testing and you as a parent are probably like, hey, done with testing. But there is still time if students want to take another round of the SAT or ACT. Typically colleges will accept that October, November timeframe for the SAT, ACT for those early action deadlines. So if your student is thinking, I feel pretty good about my test scores, but ooh, if I could get them like this tier higher, I might feel better. Or if you're thinking, ooh, feeling pretty good about scholarship, but if you could get yours this tier higher, it would bring us a little bit more scholarship money. There still is time. And some schools will even allow students to submit test scores up until March to help up their scholarship chances. So it all kind of goes school to school, but there is still time if your student wants to take the test again. All right, spending the night with a friend would give me a better sense of the school than the senior open house. Do you guys have a lot of friends or your students have a lot of friends that are colleges that, oh, I won't do the official tour, I'll just go and stay with so-and-so and go to class with them and hang out with them for the weekend. I think there's a good party I can go to. So getting that firsthand experience, while it can be helpful, we still think that it's really beneficial for them to go to those official visits. In the spring, a lot of colleges will host admitted students events, and those are specifically geared towards students trying to make their decisions. And so some of those may have an overnight option with a college-approved person for them to stay overnight with. And then there's some visits in the fall too. So really making sure that they're taking advantage of their time on campuses. So I'm supposed to apply to college now? This happens now? Does anyone have a senior in their house that's like, isn't that like May that I do that? We'll go over all the different timelines later, but I do want to say that it feels like this year started off at a little bit of a sprint for some of our students. So we've been trying to kind of slow them down and calm them down. There are a number of our local schools that are that do rolling admissions, meaning that they admit as students submit their applications. And so we've had some students take advantage of that, and that's wonderful. They've heard, we've already had acceptances. Isn't that awesome? We've already got seniors going off to college next year officially. But I think that's kind of like, everyone's kind of feeling like, oh, well, if they're already in, I need to get my application in too. So we're trying to kind of calm them down and let them know there's still time. The first main posted deadline is October 15th for a lot of the schools around here, Chapel Hill, NC State. You know, so there is still time. They still have plenty of time to get these things in. So, and then deadlines go through March. So there's plenty of time in this application season to get everything turned in. Someone write my essay for me. Have you guys heard that from your students yet? Have you been reading essays for their essays or anything yet? That's one of the pieces that I think students might dread the most in a college application, but that's also a great way for them to showcase who they are and to really share their voice. So while, yes, we do want them to have someone review their essay to kind of help to make sure that they're getting their point across, that perhaps they're using proper grammar and punctuations, but we still want it to be their voice. So really help them in seeking the guidance of someone who can make sure that their voice isn't getting lost in the edits and the reviews. Optional means I don't have to do it, right? We hear that a lot too. In most cases, optional means, yeah, you should do that. A lot of schools will give students the chance to submit an optional essay or an optional personal statement or an optional resume. Any of those chances are really the school saying, we want to learn more about you other than just what's on your transcript and what's in those test scores. Why would you pass that up? So make sure you're encouraging your students when there's something that's optional to take advantage of the opportunity to share more about themselves. Because really, in the end, colleges are looking for reasons why to accept students to their school. They're not looking for reasons to turn them away. They want to accept them, and they can do that by learning the most they can about the students. All right, so wait, I needed to request what in Naviance? Do you guys remember using Naviance last year with your parent survey that you did? And students use that in 10th grade to do a lot of career interest inventories. Well, this year, everything funnels through Naviance for college applications. So their transcripts, their teacher recommendations, all that stuff go through there. So make sure your students know what Naviance is. You guys still have your parent login, so you can see what they're doing too. If you need a refresher of what that is, let us know. We're happy to resend it to you, but that's a great way for you to kind of keep track of things too. You can see on there what colleges they've added to their list, if they've requested their transcripts, if they've requested teacher recommendations, what's been sent off. So it's a good way, if you don't want to always be, well, what have you done today? What have you done tomorrow? You can check on that in the background using your Naviance accounts. And sometimes this might be a parent thing sometimes, but sometimes it's a student. We can worry about that price tag later. Price is the hard conversation to have when you start talking about colleges, because of course you don't want to say to your student when they're eager and applying in August and September, well, don't even bother applying to that school because there's no way we can afford that. But you do want to be able to have an honest conversation with your students about what your family can handle financially. Every college has to have a financial aid calculator on their website, and those are great tools to kind of figure out, okay, what would this cost look like for my family? So based on my financial need, based on some merit that my student may be bringing to the table, what does this really look like? So it is important to kind of have those conversations on the front end, just so students kind of know what's in their ballpark. And that you guys are aware too. Financial aid offices will also be happy to talk with families too to kind of give an estimate of what a package might look like for you, especially if you're considering any kind of early decision. That's that binding one where you're saying, if you say yes to me, I'm buying the sweatshirt, I'm taking back all my other applications, and I'm yours, here's my check. So they'll work with you too ahead of time to make sure that you really understand that financial commitment. And then our favorite one that we hear in seminar every Friday, oh, do we need our laptops in here today? Yes. You need your laptops every day. So if you see your kid walking out the door on Friday morning without a laptop, make sure you send them back to grab that laptop.
I get to talk about all the fun stuff. We get to talk about money later on too. All right guys, for you that don't know me, I'm Karen Verboyne, and just a real quick show of hands, we're going to do what I do with your students every Friday in seminar. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I'm calm, I'm great, 10 means you are out of your mind and you are frantic. Let me just share with you real quick before I answer this. I have a senior here as well. I am at about a 9 with her, okay? So show of hands, who is like 5 or less right now? Ah, good. I hope you remain there the rest of the season. I'm not going to guarantee that we have a place for you in the rest, but I'm sure it'll grow up. All right, so the rest of you, right? Raise your hands. We're like 6 and above, right? Raise them high. Mine's going up. Mine is going up. My daughter is on varsity volleyball. She had a concussion already. She's applied to some of those rolling application deadlines. She's waiting on one this week, and every time she gets an email from the school, Mom, 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 can you calm down, Sophia? Please calm down. You're wreaking havoc on the rest of my senior class, okay? Calm down, calm down. She did get an acceptance this week from a school that was at the top of the list, but you know how that list goes. That one is actually at number 4 or 5 right now, but she's thrilled that she got in somewhere. She is a straight B student, 3.0, 3.1, and she is thrilled. So guys, there's a place for everybody, somewhere, whatever they're going to do. As Jessica mentioned, whether it's going out to work, whether it's taking a gap year, whether it's going to vocational school, whether it's going to community college I'm telling you, community college is an absolute gem. It's a gem. I'm trying to convince that of your kids too and tell them about all the great programs. And some of them aren't buying it because they're listening too much to who's next door to them and what's going on. Which I have to remind them, a lot of times that information isn't true because they're trying to up one as well. So try to actually just talk to the students, calm their fears, get them going, and get them where they're supposed to be. So we are going through a lot in seminar, and know that they are making appointments with us. They've been working on Common App with us. We've seen so many essays so far. They are on track right now. Some of them that are not, we're reaching out to them, we're pulling them from their learning labs, and we're making sure that they're on point, okay? So if you have a question about that, reach out to myself or Ms. Smith, and we'll let you know where we are. So testing, that's a fun one. That's a real fun one. Some of your students just took the SAT August 24th, and mine did. October is the 5th. You see the registration deadlines up there as we go through as well. And the ACT dates there as well. Now, as we're getting further into the year, you want to have those test scores. Those test scores, we're going to talk about in a minute. Those are yours. Those belong to the child. You are responsible for sending them off to the schools. We do not send them off. We'll tell you in a few minutes what we do and about our deadlines. Okay. So again, student responsibility for sending those scores. I just sat down with a student today, and he didn't realize, oh, there's a fee to do this? I'm going to do this at home because I'm going to get Dad's credit card. You do that, buddy. You're going to have to do it. You have to get it sent off. Okay? They were $12 each to send them to every school. So he had 5. So we can figure out the math there. We can't do that for you. So make sure your student is sending it directly to the school. That last date that you just saw up there, the October 5th, you want, when they register, for them to send that directly to the schools that they're applying to, if they know they're going to apply to them. And then you go to your account at sat.org or act.org in order to send those scores off. Click Send Scores. Like I said, you have to pay for all of them. Consult one of us if you're not sure which ones to send. And then, I'm sorry, I've had a cold, so please excuse me. You send those scores to colleges at least 2 weeks prior, so they will meet that application deadline. We have a question back here already?
Will this deck be made available to us?
Will this,
Deck, the...
are we recording it?
We're recording it,
Yes, so it will be.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, 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 yes. All right, and then don't send off those AP scores until after you've been accepted. We have another one over there.
Yes. If they're taking the SAT on October 5th and they click send the scores, will it send the previous SAT scores?
It will send the one for that test.
So if you get your previous one.
You need to go back in there and make sure you're sending the correct ones that you want them to send. Okay? All All right, guys, so hang in there just a few minutes. I think we're going to do a question and answer at the end, or are we doing it as we go along? We'll do it as we go along. Okay. How many of y'all have been out there on a college campus with your child visiting those colleges? Right? My daughter and I went this summer, and guess what? It was ghost town on those campuses. So we're going to make sure that we go back to some of these schools that she's interested in when there are students on campus, so she can meet some more of those students. Opportunity to do so. October 17th and 18th, we have teacher work days. Absolutely a great time. And as well as February 13th and 14th. Get on a tour. Sign up for the tour. You actually want your student to sign up for it. Parents, I know it's hard to let go. But you want your student to show demonstrated interest. So it really needs to be under their name. Actually, it needs to be under their name. Okay? So that that school sees that they've been on a tour. Again, demonstrated interest. They're going to track how many times that your student has reached out, has visited the campus, has met with the rep here at school, maybe has emailed that rep and said, hey, I'm really interested in getting to know more about the school. I'm going on a tour on October 17th. I'm interested in this program. Ask your student to reach out to that rep. There may be a class they may be able to sit into. There may be some more information, but that rep will see, hey, this student is really interested in my school. What else can I do to help them? And then particularly when that app comes in, they'll be able to recognize that name. It's not a guarantee to get in there, but you want your student's name in front of them. Okay, college reps at CSD. Let's just tell you, a popular day on campus was yesterday. Whew, largest rep visit I think that we've had. Ever. We are also asking the sophomores and the juniors to start signing up and coming in, listening to what the seniors are asking, listen to the whole process. First time that the rep visit had to be in here. I know that when I last looked, there were 95 students who signed up.
That was 116 before.
Oh, 116, I'm sorry, 116. So know that we had to dismiss the underclassmen back to their Tuesday talks, and the seniors got a few minutes with the rep, other than everybody did get to see the presentation. But it's a great way for your student to get in front of that rep, to link back up to the college, to show a demonstrated interest, and just get to know more. Sometimes they're afraid to ask questions in front of all y'all. Sometimes they're good with you guys being there. But it's a great information session for them to ask. It's 30 minutes, it's usually during lunch, and they just need to go through Naviance and sign up.
And you guys can see that if you log into your Parent Naviance account, you can see what all colleges are coming to. That's a great way for you to say, oh, I saw so-and-so's coming, maybe you should check it out.
Well, and this is what Jessica was just alluding to here, is that you see up there, you know, Tuesday, August 28th, we had a college come. All you have to do is register up there, and we have a list of students that should be there in the room with us. They can bring their lunch. They won't be missing lunch. They can get their hot lunch and bring it in. So it's just a casual time to get to know more about the school and know the rep. Oh, boy.
So, this is one of our favorite slides. I like to leave this in from year to year. Old Ron Burgundy with his wise words for us. Procrastinator? No. I just wait until the last second to do my work because I will be older and therefore wiser. Do you feel like your students think like Ron Burgundy sometimes? All right, so let's talk deadlines because sometimes they don't have something due right away. But these are some of the words you'll see out there as you're looking at applications with your students. Early decision. That is the one that has some real oomph behind it that you really need to have a family conversation about, that you need to be talking with your counselor about, because there's a form that we sign off on that one. That's the one where it is binding. You only apply to one school early decision, and you're saying to that school, you are it for me. I know that I can see myself on your campus. This is it for me. If you accept me, I'm yours. And they expect that. So if you're accepted, they expect you to withdraw any applications you have out there outstanding, regardless of whether you've heard back from them or not, and go ahead and send in that deposit check. Some of the benefits of early decision, for schools that have early decision, they typically do admit a larger pool of their applicants through those early decision dates. And so it can give students a slight leg up in admissions if they are really interested in that school. So that is something that can be a great option for some students. It's not a great option for every student. We have probably a handful of students every year that do this. So please let us know if that's something that you and your student are thinking about. If you have some questions about it, we'd be happy to talk more individually about that, because it can be a great option for some families, but it is one that you want to really go into eyes wide open and know what you're committing to and what your student's committing to before they sign that early decision. Early action is the other great way to get a decision back sooner, but not have it binding. So a lot of our state schools have early action deadlines. A lot of schools have early action deadlines, even if they also have early decision. That just gives you a chance, or gives your students a chance to submit their application October, November, December typically, and then hear back in a couple months. So that way they're not waiting until March to hear the decision. They're getting the decisions in December or in January. That also, for most schools, puts students ahead of any kind of priority deadline for scholarships. Well, I think we'll talk about scholarships a little bit later too, but there are some scholarships that your student can just automatically qualify for by their admissions application, and so making sure that the application gets in advance of any of those priority deadlines, make sure that they can be in the running for that. So scholarships that are just based on GPA or test scores or things like that, that are easy to spot in those applications. You'd want to make sure you're looking at the early action deadline. If your student's interested in any of the honors colleges or special programs that may be by invite only, then you'd want to look at that early action deadline. So that would give the school a chance to notice the student, send out that invitation, and have the student give the student a chance to fill out the application and get it back to the college too. Regular decision, those deadlines are typically January, February deadlines, and that just gives students a little bit more time. So maybe a student isn't quite sure where they want to apply yet. They don't want to waste money and effort and time on getting early action applications out there just because everyone else is doing it. They want to take a more focused approach and make sure they know what they're doing. Maybe you're applying to a school that only has early decision or regular decision, and you don't want to make that binding commitment, so you're applying regular decision. This also can be a great deadline for students who need a little bit more time to show that upward trend with their grades, with their test scores, with their leadership experience, with their activities. It gives them a chance to get a kind of first semester under their belt to show that they're continuing that path upward. And so they can send those mid-year grades along with that initial application to show, yeah, maybe I might have been a little rocky 9th, 10th grade, started really kicking in 11th grade, and now look, my senior year, this first semester, I'm rocking my classes. So that could be another reason why students might look at that regular decision. And then we have rolling, like what we talked about earlier. And those can be exciting deadlines, but those can also feel like a little anxiety-provoking because you want to do it fast, because decisions do come out a week or two after you submit your application. But those schools that do rolling typically have large classes to fill, so they're not filling up by mid-September. So it's okay, students can still submit their applications October, November, December, January, and there's typically still room in those classes. But those are nice because they get that answer right away. A lot of times those rolling admissions, the application itself is a little more simple, but then if you want to be considered for any of their scholarships, that's when they're asking for those extra essays or those teacher recommendations. And so sometimes students are like, oh, this is weird that all the application asked for was my test score and my transcript. Is that all? I thought applications were supposed to be hard. And we're like, yes, that's the application, but now it'll be hard when you start looking at scholarships. So don't let that deter your student if they're thinking, oh, this doesn't seem like enough of an application. It definitely is. For some schools, they're looking at those quantitative data, and then when they're really looking for scholarships, they'll want to dig deeper into who the student is. All right, so in North Carolina, CFNC partners up with the North Carolina schools to offer, it used to just be called Free Application Week, but now they've changed it to Application Month, so they do a lot of marketing and advertising throughout the whole month to make sure that families know what resources are out there for them to help them kind of demystify the whole college application process. That last week of October, though, a number of the private institutions in North Carolina will waive their admissions fees. The public ones don't typically waive them as often. ECU was here for a lunch session today, and they did say that they are actually waiving their admissions fee. So if you have a student who's applying to ECU and wants to wait until then to get a little free application fee, they can do that. But all of those would go through CFNC, which is a slightly different way than what they're used to applying to colleges through. So we'll make sure we walk them through that when it gets to that time. But just know that if a student has a November 1st deadline for a school in North Carolina, that works out pretty well because that puts them in that free window. Now, if they have an October 15th deadline, sorry, you gotta still pay because you want to make sure your application is in by the October 15th deadline. I think they do that on purpose. After those big deadlines, the big Chapel Hill, NC State deadlines. All right. Still, yes. So just as you're working your way through college applications, there's a couple different kind of main platforms if you guys aren't already familiar with them. The Common App is a great tool. There are hundreds of schools that are members of that, and so students can fill out one common application that goes to all of the schools, and there's individual supplemental questions or responses that the individual schools will have students respond to. The Coalition is a newer kid on the street. It's very similar to the Common App in that it has member colleges, you fill out a main profile. There's some differences to that, but a lot of it, for what our students are using it for, they're very similar. CFNC is another way to apply for colleges here in North Carolina, and then colleges sometimes will also have a direct application through their website. And we're going over all those different options with students in seminar too, but those are kind of the ones you might see. As far as what you can, your input on those forms, if you haven't already gotten those questions of, what was your major? What school did you go to? What year did you graduate? The Common App is going to ask students to report their family's information in hopes of maybe qualifying them for any kind of alumni scholarships, also for some of their statistical purposes too. But that's some of the information that your students might be needing from you on the front end for their applications is just where you attend school, what's your current occupation, things like that. And they'll probably hit you up for the fees, so be prepared for that. They can go anywhere from $35 to $80 for college. If you feel like that's going to be a big financial burden to your family, or you've needed some help in the past, we do have some fee waivers that are available, so let us know. And if you have any questions about what qualifies families for that, just reach out to Karen and I. We're happy to talk that through with you because it can be a big investment with these college applications. Essays, we kind of already talked about that. And then those test scores are what the students send, and then we'll send off transcripts and teacher recommendations. And if the council recommendation if they're needed to, so we'll take care of getting all that sent off. Most of the students have done pretty well with requesting their teacher recommendations already. We talked to them about that in junior seminar before we left for summer and encouraged them to go ahead and talk to those teachers face to face and make those requests. So maybe just check with other students and say, oh, hey, just write your recommendation letters to be sure that they've done that. But we're going through and kind of doing that double check to make sure that they've requested those if needed, because some of our teachers get hit up a lot for recommendation letters. Looking at one of our top writers right here. Any questions about the different parts of the application or what you guys may be seeing? Yeah.
I had heard from another parent who has a child in another school that if the college prefers you to go on their website and submit the application on their website. Like there might be additional things, additional sections and so forth, and they want to see that extra effort. So even if they take the Common App, if they have it available on their website, then you should go to their website and do it. So what's your position on that?
I haven't necessarily heard that as like a hard and fast rule, but there are, you definitely want to make sure your student is checking their portal. So once they submit their application, whether they do it through Common App or through the school's website directly, they'll get set up with a portal at that school. And so that would be the place where they would have an opportunity to submit any extra materials. And so it's really important that your students check that portal. Oftentimes that's where they get their decisions too. While the Common App provides a lot of information, sometimes schools will say, if you have an additional personal statement or you have a resume, if you have some extra things, sometimes their scholarship applications are through that portal. So that may be what they're thinking about too, is just making sure that they're staying on top of their emails, staying on top of that portal. That's also where they'll see that their test scores have been received, that their transcripts have been received. They'll get that checklist on there. So it's really important for them to keep an eye on that, because there may be some extra opportunities for them to submit some additional information through that portal too.
Yes. So, my daughter was explaining this to me, and I just don't really understand it, but she probably does. I found that she was saying that with the Common App, you can only apply 3 times, and you bundle a certain amount of applications. Explain that.
Yeah, so we were talking to students about that. So there are a number of schools out there that are test optional, and so they get that for some students that one-time test score of that standardized test isn't this defining factor of who a student is, or isn't the best predictor of who they're going to be when they're in college. And there's a list of those if you go to fairtest.org. It's a great website, fairtest.org, as you writing it down. It shows all of the schools. It has an up-to-date list of all the schools who are test optional, test flexible. And so what we were telling students about that is on the Common App, there's a place where you can self-report your scores, which for some schools that only require self-reported scores, it saves you some money. It saves you that $12 school send fee. But the way the Common App is set up, you can only save 3 versions of it. So what we were telling students is if they had a school or 2 or however many that they're applying to test optional, and they had some schools they're applying to where they want to self-report their test scores, to kind of bundle them together. So you would fill out your Common App first, with reporting your test scores, hit send to all of the schools that are wanting your test scores, and then you'd go back in and say, no, I don't want to report my test scores, and then that version is what you would send to those remaining schools that are test flexible or test optional. Does that help? Yeah. And then you have like that third one in case you missed, in case you're like, oh yeah, there's that other school that needed that. But in the end, there should be a fail-safe on the Common App side too. There's usually that last question when you're on the individual school's submit page of, this school's test optional, do you want to submit your test scores? Most times it'll prompt you to answer that question one more time. So if you have left them in the main application by accident, it should not submit that part for a student too, or the student can always follow up with the school saying, I wanted to apply test optional, can you please disregard this part of it? So in the end, it's not the end of the world if that gets sent off, and we're happy to help students with that too. But that's what she was talking about with the different versions of it. All right.
Okay, so welcome to the world of Naviance again. Your students are quite aware of what we need to do, and as Ms. Smith was talking about, they request their transcripts, their teacher recommendations, they track the status of both of them as reporting of their final decisions on Naviance as well. We also keep all that information so that we have all of that information as we move forward with other classes, so that we can keep information of how many applied to a certain school, how many got in, how many were denied, how many were waitlisted. So it's a great information for us, and that's why we need, at the end of the year, students to report their final decision where they're going. Common App users, we want to make sure that the students are definitely using the same email on both accounts, and definitely with their students, make sure that they're using their student email so that everything has commonality. I know my daughter was using my email, and I'm getting all those emails, and it's like, stop. So yeah, we're not going to follow what my daughter does. Okay. On Naviance, again, as the students are reporting where they were accepted, where they're going, all that information, you can see, this is reports that get put together, that we have colleges across the U.S. that have accepted our students. And again, all of this is on Naviance, and lots of information if you all log onto on Naviance and have your student do that as well. And then here's the ones that our students are attending. You see that we're overloaded there on the East Coast, so I know you guys have had some, former parents of our seniors have had some push, stay East Coast, stay local, or some of them definitely want to be close to home. Lots of them are staying close to in North Carolina so that they get that in-state tuition. So all of that, you can find that information on Naviance. So lots and lots of good information. And I really like the ones down here, South Florida, One's way out there on the west coast. All right, again, most popular colleges for our students. We have UNCC, so here in Charlotte, NC State, App State, Chapel Hill, we're hearing all these North Carolina colleges, Virginia Tech, Furman, Wake Forest, Gardner-Webb, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, University of Georgia. So again, lots of information so that when your student is accepted and they move on, they go to their college, they put all that information in, you guys will be gladly sharing this information. And again, it's kept confidential, it doesn't have anybody's name on there, but just to show parents of our next senior class where our students are going. All right, any questions about Naviance or the college application process here that we can answer for you so far? We're good? As you see, we're going to have a question and answer session on Wednesday, September 18th at 8:30 a.m. Please join us. We're going to put something out to RSVP for that one? No, just show up. Just show up. Yeah, question?
Yeah, so the North Carolina, you mentioned Chapel Hill and NC State application deadlines, that didn't seem to align with that January, February timeline. What are the deadlines for those?
So the early action is October 15th for those schools.
All right, so if you have a student like we do, who's trying to push her scores up a little more, what we had heard was that was the deadline, October. And so she said, I need to put in that, yes, report these scores, and that made me nervous, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen. She could be sick or something else. So we were a little nervous about that. So that's not the case for the typical.
Right, there's regular decision and all those other types of decisions. So it's also just looking on the college website as well and seeing through their admissions process what those dates are and talking with your student.
And we can try to individually review how we want to make an appointment with your counselor because every situation is unique and it depends on the colleges that you're applying for because sometimes you have a better chance of getting in a certain college because they take more applicants who got early action deadlines. And so it's just kind of a game. So the counselors would be more in tune with where your zoning is and the colleges.
Yep, just email us and we'll be glad to have you set up an appointment then we go. Okay, it's got real. Financial aid. All right, I'm just going to share with you that I am also in college on top of all of this. Don't know. So I am working on my PhD. I know all about financial aid and what's going on. A lot of you parents, I know, have students already off at college, so some of this should be able to share some information with some of those sitting around you. The FAFSA opens on October 1st, and I highly recommend that you complete that at that time. They're going to use your 2018 tax returns, and I'm going to share with you one of the benefits of doing it early. We received an email from App State, and there is a specific scholarship that if your child is going to apply for it, they need to have that already in. And that deadline date I know is like November, December. If you need more information about that, reach out, let us know. But please do that early. I know when it's just me in college, I wait and wait and wait. And by that time, some of the things have already passed me by and I'm not able to. You know that we saw that big screen about the procrastinator? I've learned how to do that and I don't need to do that. I need that money and those scholarships. So, while you go ahead and wait, Jessica talked about the calculators for each college, just to get an idea about the financial aid packages. Call the colleges, ask them about it as well. And then some colleges, usually the private ones, will ask for the CSS profile through College Board. Again, that opens on October 1st. Now, there will be a portion that you have to fill out as a parent, and then there's going to be a portion for your student to fill out. And you each will have separate information on logging in, and they will be combined at a later date, but each of you have to fill out a portion. So know that, so that your student's going to have to get on there and fill out as well.
For those of you in the room who have done the FAFSA and the CSS profile, FAFSA, do that first. It's a good warm-up, it's a good stretch. The CSS profile is much more intense. So do the FAFSA first to kind of get yourself warmed up for it. Colleges will always recommend that families fill that out, even if you're not quite sure if you might receive any kind of need-based aid. That's the only way for them to know if you might qualify for anything. And depending on where your student ends up going, your estimated family contribution, which is what the FAFSA comes up with. So the government decides how much money they think you can pay for college based on the information you put in there. Now that might not be how much you intend or want to pay for college, but that's how much they think you can pay for college, and that's the number that goes to the colleges. So, you know, for if you end up with an estimated family contribution of $15,000, you know, the government says, okay, you can pay $15,000 a year. Well, at a state school, you know, that's pretty close, you know, around what they're asking. But if you're looking at a private institution or at a state school, that could be a big gap between what your family can contribute and what the college costs are. And so then that's the school takes some ownership in trying to fill that gap between what your family supposedly can provide and what that final cost is. So while you may feel like you might not qualify for much, it kind of depends on what school your student ends up going to as to how that factors in with the total cost of it. So it's one of those things where colleges will typically encourage students and families to fill out that FAFSA just in case, because you don't know what you might qualify for until you do that. And schools are need blind in admissions. If they're not, they have to make it pretty obvious out there if they're need aware. So it's nothing that's going to hurt your student typically to have that filled out.
Okay, so scholarships. There's a package that went out that I emailed to all of our senior parents, all of our senior students as well, for the CSD nominated school scholarship process. That was for the Levine, the Park, the Jefferson. There's a number of them grouped together. Some of your students have already been approaching me, well, what about this, what about this, what about this? We encourage them to come with those questions, because as of the 12th at 3 o'clock, they're all due. So if they are planning to apply, please go home and ask them if they've already been working on it. There's a couple of short answer essay questions, a lot of information. So let us know, okay? In the seminar, we're going to devote a lot of time to talking about scholarships. They're going to be doing some research on these. And then you as parents, look around at your connections. Your workplace may have some scholarships, an association that you're involved in may have one, somebody that may do some matching. So all of those things you need to start thinking about. Because if it's money that can help support, maybe make the difference between that one dream school and maybe their second one, let's give them that opportunity. Let's check out every option that we can. And also know that we do have a live binder. There's lots of information that we keep up on there. And again, we will send students to that resource to continue to look at. So please remember to remind them to look there. But we will go through it in seminar as well. Okay, so questions about the whole financial aid process and paying for college. There is a financial aid workshop coming up at Davidson College on Thursday, September 19th at 6:30 p.m. We will send out more information about this, and you will just need to sign up because they need to get a head count. So we will be sending that out within the next few days. So be on the lookout for that. But that will definitely be broad and in-depth about financial aid.
So they've been really generous to offer this every year as to our community and then to the consortium that we're in with the other area high school counselors. And it is not Davidson College specific, so don't feel like, oh, well, my student's not interested in that school, so I want to go. They go through the FAFSA, the CSS profile, kind of comparing costs between a public school, a private school, and out-of-state school, so it is really, really beneficial information. So if you're available to go, it's a great resource for you. There you go, I'm up again. All right, so you've gotten through all the applications, your student has waited patiently, or maybe not so patiently, and they're finally getting their decisions. So there's a couple different decisions your students can hear. Obviously, we all want to hear the accepted decision, because that's the exciting one. That puts the ball back in their court. Now they have a decision to make on their end of where they want to spend their next few years. The kind of decision is deferred. So that is we think you could be a great fit for our school, but we're not quite sure yet, or we need more information. So sometimes when students apply through those early action deadlines, a decision they may get back is a deferral, meaning that based on the applicant pool for this date, we still feel like you could be a good fit for our school, but we're not quite sure, or we want to see some mid-year grades from you, or we'd like to see you take the SAT or ACT one more time. And so sometimes a deferral will come with instructions, other times a deferral will just come with, wait until our next deadline and we'll give you an update then. And that's hard. Those are the hardest ones, I think, for students to get, are the, you're deferred, but we don't want anything else from you. We just want to reevaluate you come January with that regular decision deadline. Those are tough for students. So, you know, if you get to that point, send them our way. We'll talk through that. Some schools do want something. Some schools don't want some additional information. So we can talk through that. The decision that are always hard for students are the denials, especially if it's a school that maybe they're not expecting that from. College admissions can be unpredictable. Yes, we have trends and numbers. We can look at averages from previous years. We can look at trends of students that from our school that have been accepted to places, but every year it's a different ballgame because it's based on who's applying that year and what goals the institution has as to who they want to bring in to be a part of that class. Maybe they're looking for a great trombone player that year, and your student happens to be an ace at that, and they get, you know, so it can be a little unpredictable from year to year, even with kind of the trends that we're able to see. And we try to help guide students to matches that when they apply, it's not just this shot in the dark, but it's a calculated decision because we don't want them to waste their time applying. We don't want to get their hopes up for nothing. So we try to help guide them to that. But every year we do have students that do get that denial. But in the end, I think most of them will say it kind of helped open their eyes to, and maybe an even better option for them too. And so that's what hopefully once they you know, kind of wipe the dirt off from that, they'll start to see that better opportunity that may have been in front of them all along, but they weren't able to see it yet until they got that no on that one school. So those are the kind of main three. Some other ones that you may that students may get are a spring admit. So some colleges will do that. Like Wilmington does this often. App State has done this for a number of our students, where they'll be admitted, but they can't start there until spring of the following year. So rather than starting in the fall, they'll start in spring. And so that's a great opportunity for students to maybe take a community college course or two to kind of you know, get some of those prereqs out of their way. But they know that they're in if they choose to take that, but they just can't start until the spring. A guaranteed transfer offer, kind of the same thing, where they say, you know, we want you on our campus, but we don't have room for you in this very first fall semester, but we do want you here, so go and take some classes at community college and, you know, and come transfer in after a semester or two. There's another option up there too that we didn't add. Sorry, it's really cold in here. I feel like I'm like shivering. Sorry, my voice is like crazy right now. There are a number of colleges have started doing bridge programs. And so with those programs, they're looking at students and saying, we see so much potential in this student. We think that they could be a great fit on our campus once they've gotten a little bit more experience under their belt. And so they've partnered up with the local community colleges to have the students take some classes at the community college, take a class or two on their campus, and once they've successfully completed a few of those community college courses, then they are a full-fledged student at that college's campus. UNC Charlotte has a great one. University of South Carolina has a great, so a lot of the colleges around here are doing that, and that could be a great opportunity for students too. Typically, those aren't programs that a student would like check a box to apply into. Usually those are ones that the admissions counselors kind of pick and choose from on the back end, but if you have a student that you feel like would be a really good fit for that, colleges welcome our input on that. Once again, we can't apply there for them, but they're happy to hear from us if we have to say a student I think would be a really good fit and would be really open to that, because sometimes students like, no, I just want to get in, I don't want to do something else first. So if we know a student is open to that and would be a great fit for that, colleges like to hear that from us too, so make sure you're letting us know. And then wait list, so so sometimes that one's even harder than the denial. What do you guys think of parents who have already had seniors or graduates go through this? So the wait list is, well, if there's room, but we might not know if there's room until June or July or August, and so it's like that door is just left cracked open. What they'll also say in those letters is that you should go ahead and start making other plans, because you don't want to put all your eggs in that wait list basket and then miss out on a chance at another school that could be a really great fit for you. That's something we'll also work to kind of counsel students through that too. So those are the main kind of decisions that your students might be seeing. if you guys haven't had a chance to come to this, we've done the same book for the past couple years because we just love it. I think it's a really great book. But if you haven't come in the past, feel free to come this year. Frank Bruni's Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. It's just a great read to kind of put everything in perspective. So we'll offer that book talk in late January. So give you guys plenty of time, to go out, put it on your shopping list and come in for that talk. We'll do a morning session and then we'll do an evening session if we have attendance for that. So we'll send out reminders and RSVP as we get closer to that. But just wanted to kind of give you that date now in case you guys want to put that on your calendars. All right, so once the students get those final decisions, it's time for them to make the choice. Hopefully they'll have some choices to make at that point. They'll have some yeses from a couple different schools. So there'll be chances for them to go to those accepted students days, comparing those financial aid offers. So usually around March is when they'll get those financial aid packages, so you really can start kind of comparing apples to apples at that point. The deadline, May 1st is decision day. So every student has to tell the school they're attending by May 1st if they're going to be attending. That's the day that they hold their spot to, they hold their scholarships to, they hold everything to that date. So that's kind of, they have to decide by that date, but they do have up until that time if they really need it. Another thing we try to really remind students to do is to make sure they go back and let their teachers who write their recommendations letters know what they're hearing back. Oftentimes they get so excited, and we're a small school, so a lot of times students just assume we know everything. We hear a lot, we know a lot, but we don't know everything. So make sure that they're going back and letting them hear, sharing the good news with them and thanking them for their hard work on those recommendations. And then we send their final transcript off. So yes, grades still matter. Remember that early slide? The colleges in the end want to see who you ended up in your senior year to be. They want to make sure that who you ended up to be was who they admitted back in December, January, so those grades still do matter. So making sure they're finishing the year strong. You guys, a little fun preview of the year. One of the best seats in the house at graduation. I get to stand on stage and help pass out the diplomas, and so I get to see all of those hats being thrown in the faces. And so mark your calendars if you don't have them marked already. Graduation, June 4th, same place, Belk Theater, Uptown Charlotte. So make sure you go ahead and make those arrangements for that ahead of time. And then we can all celebrate together. They can find their way in the world outside of CST. I think that's all, yeah. Right at 8 o'clock. We're rocking this year. If there are a couple general questions, feel free to throw your hands up. If not, we'll go ahead and let you guys go and have a wonderful evening, and then we'll stay back to answer a few individual questions if you need. Any general questions for the benefit of the crowd before? Well, thank you all so much for coming out. Go get warmed up.